Staying on the book board, maybe not. But Tim will tell us now, won't he?
Well, what am I telling you?
Will Zoom on an iPad be workable, or should I be on a bigger screen?
We'll be on two screens, so it depends whether you can view your other screen at the same time. I mean, you don't need both screens simultaneously. It's up to
I
you.
might, I might just
Hello,
join from
Sally.
my.
Hello, Charles. Hi, Lena. Thank you to those of you who were here before I was. Well done. Good effort. I feel truly embarrassed by your punctuality. What am I doing? I am looking for some nice music. If those of you are here, if you want to let other folk know where you are, I always like that as a start. So just pop in the chat whereabouts you are. We'll do a proper check-in in a minute when everyone's here, but it just saves that awkward bit where we all stand there and go, "Oh, I don't know what to say." I mean, I never know what not to say because I just waffle. But you know, we could probably do without me waffling all the time. So there we go. Candice is in London, or that London, as I prefer to know it. Lena, are you outside, Lena? I hope you are. Or is it a background?
It is a background.
I see.
I'm imagining I'm in a Zen garden, but I'm
I,
not. I'm just in a room.
I was sorely tempted to do this outside, and I thought, no, the neighbours will start mowing the lawn or something like that. Piva, is that Piva? Is that how you pronounce it on the edge of the Pyrenees?
Puiver.
Wow. I mean, with a surname like mine, I should be able to manage the French pronunciation. Beautiful. He looks very French, Simon. Hello, Andy. Welcome. And Alistair, hello. Andy's got in ahead of everyone else. He's got his location in his name. I like that. Unless his surname is Andy Wright Londonish. It might be hyphenated.
Hi, Tim. Great to be here.
Hi, Alistair. What are you saying, Charles? We do need a word to describe the silence. I feel it's there must be a German word for that, and it would be very long and have lots of consonant sounds. And I say that with much love for German grammar. I just love that. Yeah, let's stick another thing on it, and let's stick another thing on it. It's beautiful. Hello, Nat. Hello, Ali. Hello, Jean Petro. So, those of you who've just joined, let us know where you're joining us from in the chat. We will do a proper check-in. I'm meant to be playing some music at this point, just to invite us all in gently. And I've ended up waffling, and now can't find where my music's meant to be playing from. By the time I found the music, my guess is everyone will be here and it'll be time to get started. Well, we'll give it a go. So lots of London posse. I'm in Leeds. For those of you who don't know, I'm in Leeds. Otherwise, we could just have all got together down there, couldn't we? You're all together. You're all together. There you go. I've not come across a book that I've not come across, Candice. That's not right. The meaning of Tinder and other extraordinary words sounds fab.
It's a genius. It's a genius book. And Tingo means it's an Easter Island word to steal everything out of a neighbor's house one by one until everything's gone.
It's a beautiful word. I like that. Sunduku is one of my favorite words. We should have done that. This could have been our check-in. What's your favorite word? And that's the Japanese art of buying lots of books and piling them up and never reading them, which is the book seller. I wholly approve of the Japanese art of buying books that you never read. Go for it. Buy as many books as you want. Don't read them. Oh, thanks, Alistair. What's that? Alistair, could you give us a live you need to say that for us to save me saying it for us.
Komische lange Pause.
Komische lange Pause. I've got my wife in the background who is German. So
Oh,
just getting
thank
some
you,
coaching there on
Alistair's
the
wife.
pronunciation.
Wonderful. I love that. Komische lange Pause. I'm surprised we don't have any other folk from Germany on. I know lots of folk from Germany. Yeah, Sally, I'm in the posh bit. I'm in Chapel Allerton, which is beautiful and sunny today. Though I was over in Farsley the other week, in that beautiful little valley that kind of threads its way through. It's gorgeous.
Is that Glen something Valley? I used to live in Chapel Allerton.
It's a small world. A lot of people
The
have lived
mysteries.
here. It's got a bit of a history as a feminist movement being based here. There we go.
Is that more recent?
No. From
I must have missed it.
no, it was from before both of our times.
Oh.
Anyway.
Well, I wouldn't be too sure about me, actually. Anyway, yeah. State pensioner as I am.
I do like kintsugi as well, Charles. That's another cracking word. Right, I don't just so I know for future one. Can anyone hear the music in the background? Is it doing the play? No, you can't hear the music. Oh, it's pointless playing it then. I should just have waffled. I mean, I did just waffle. I'll stop it. And then... Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining. I think most of us are in the UK. So thank you for giving up some of your time to join us on a gloriously hot day. I really appreciate it. Because it's a lot to give up some time to this guy that some of you have never heard of, to this thing that you've never heard of. So absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. I hope it was going to be a fun session. That's why we're playing a game, because we're going to get into some deep stuff, but we're like avoiding Medusa. We're not going to stare it in the face. We're going to look at it obliquely or through a mirror, and therefore we won't get turned to stone, and we'll be able to find all of our way through. I guess that's the purpose of the game. We'll come to that in a bit. I'm Tim Freno. What am I? I was telling someone I wear lots of hats the other day, and I do genuinely wear lots of hats. To those of you who are surprised at me not wearing a hat, I do have hair. It's going though. It's going. So there will come a time when there is no hair left. But yeah, I wear lots of hats. So I'm a bookseller. You can probably tell from the books in the background. I sell books about travel and nature and philosophy on subscription. And I'm a regenerative designer, for whatever that means. Which I guess means that I try and help businesses and organizations look beyond sustainability, and what comes after you try to be less bad. When you try to be more good, what does that look like? So that's me, and I live here in North Leeds, in Chapel Allerton, which is a beautiful part of the world. We're 10 minutes away from Wharfdale. So I'm very lucky, and 5 minutes away from a beautiful local woodland that I walk in almost every day. The bluebells are out at the moment. It's a fabulous spot. I'm desperate. I created this game so that I don't have to do all the talking. So there's going to be a whole load of you talking to each other. So to kick that off, so we get to know each other, can we go around and offer some introductions? Tell everyone who you are. If you want to throw in another favorite word, I've really enjoyed the favorite words in the chat so far, and tell me something that makes you smile on your desk, in your room, or out of your window. And I saw Simon take a glance out of his window then, so I'm going to start with Simon. Simon, when you're done, please pass on to someone else, and they can let us know who they are and what makes them smile. Are you on mute, Simon? Are you just showing us what's outside your window? That's what's making you smile.
Yeah, mountain view outside my window. That makes me smile. Currently in the south of France, normally based in West Yorkshire, not a million miles from Tim and Sally. Ex-corporate, now sustainability and adaptation advocate, and working in network weaving and lots of other bits and pieces. I know quite a few of you on the call. That makes me smile, apart from the mountain, which is a coaster for my album, which is finished and not yet published, but finished. Anybody wanting a preview, tap me up on the DMs and I can drop you some links. I shall hand across to Nat.
Thanks, Simon. Hi, everyone. I'm Nat. I'm in North London, and the thing that's really making me smile at the moment is planning my holiday. I'm going to Scotland next week to an off-grid bothy with a sauna, a wood-fired sauna nearby. And honestly, every time I think about it, it makes me very, very happy. And I work in regenerative design and systems coaching and things like that. And I'll pass on to Charles. Nice to see you, Charles.
Hello, thank you, Nat. Yeah, who's Charles? I'm still trying to work it out. Apparently, I'm a university lecturer in a Mickey Mouse subject. I teach performance sportswear design. So if you got to work for one of the Nikes, Adidas, Patagonia, Under Armour, you generally see me somewhere. My most visual role is I'm into ingredient sourcing, which in English means filling your world full of Gore-Tex, fleece and lycra. I pop up those places all over the world. My life is actually sorting out the problems associated with it. I know Tim's aware of this. We use lots of naughty chemicals and we do not have the best designs for durability, but they make people happy. So, and then separately to that, I'm one of the Do Lecture backroom teams. I know lots about regenerative agriculture, once again on fabric sourcing, doing an awful lot of carbon capture stuff at the moment. So making fleeces from carbon dioxide, which will just play with your brain, because if you read the mail, fleeces are the worst ever creation. And to make them by pulling carbon dioxide out of the air, just play with your thinking. But I'm going to go on to Andy Knight.
Thank you, Charles. Right, I guess I am Andy from Southwest London. I've got many hats as well. I guess I'm a retired-ish IT lead manager, whatever. I help run a community food project in Staines. I guess I've also done a donut economics action lab workshop facilitator. And I've also recently just completed a rewilding course. So I guess my item that makes me laugh most is probably this one, which is an unread book, which I should read, given I talk to everyone about beavers all the time. It's called Bringing Back the Beaver by Derek Gow, and he's obviously quite a comic character in the rewilding world. I'll pass on to Candice.
Thanks, Andy. Hi, I'm Candice. I suppose much like Tim, I work in regenerative design and game design, and I paint conversations of the 9 planetary boundaries onto bodies as a conversation about our mutual vulnerability. I will pass over to Lena.
Hi everyone, my name is Lena Hayek. I'm based in London. I also wear many hats, so the generic term I use for myself is design consultant. It's a good way just to summarize the different things I do. The way that I'm connected to this topic is a couple of years ago, I did a postgraduate program at Schumacher College in regenerative economics. And my favorite word I'm thinking of in this context is basta in Italian, which can be used in different ways, but I also feel like it summarizes like the way that we can just say that things are enough or that's a good amount. So that's what I've got. And then I'm just trying to think who has not been. Alistair, I shall pass it to you.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so I'll start with what makes me smile, and that's looking out of my window here and looking at sort of 400 acres of community-owned organic farmland, which is I'm very lucky to live next to. And I work with Innovate UK, sort of that's my day job, paying the bills and working with innovative and hopefully as much as possible sustainable and regenerative businesses. And I'm also really fascinated in helping landowners and farmers imagine their way through the challenges that are coming towards us and making sure that food and nature and people are all tended to in that transition.
Alistair, who do you want to go next? You've got Olivia, Sally, Emma, Josie Ann's having a lunch, so she probably doesn't want to drink.
Okay, so we'll go with Olivia then.
Hi, I'm Olivia Liv. I'm calling from Surrey. And so I guess the sort of sustainability regenerative sort of hat I wear is essentially working with people within businesses to apply that lens into their everyday work so that we sort of demystify it and help everyone understand what it means in the context of their work and their context. I do a lot of work with in the Three Horizons space, so very interested in today's session. And I would say while we work across many sectors, actually my background is in financial services. And even though I try to keep escaping it, it keeps bringing me back to those questions around flows of capital and how do you redesign the flows of capital in a way that is more just and regenerative. And what is bringing me joy is not very original, but I've recently moved out of London, so I still get really excited by the view of the Surrey Hills outside my window, which is just blue sky and trees and spring greenery. And I am going to pass over to Sally.
Hello there. Well, it's quite hard to describe what I do. I used to be a professional opera singer. I'm now trying to become a therapist. I'm retired, utterly broke, and having the time of my life. I just had a lovely conversation with somebody from a new political party, or would-be political party, about climate, which was so exciting. It's all about focusing on the environment. I think there may be some connections in the future with ASB. But that's me. And what do I like? I don't know, lots of things. But there is a photograph which you may be able to see behind me of my erstwhile spiritual master, known as Oshu, who had a great influence on my life. I've now moved on to be my own autonomous person. But I'm so grateful for him, for everything that all the insights that he had. So that's me. Who's next? Who's left?
Emma,
I don't have the gallery.
Jean-Petro, Desian.
Just say one, please, Tim, and go there because
Jean-Petro.
Yay.
I'm usually as the last one because nobody can pronounce my name. So, well, at least I'm not the last one today.
Yellow. I see I
perfect.
sang in Italian, that's why, but it's not very good.
And I can confirm to Lina that basta is actually very correct. I really like the word. And so I'm what I am. I'm many things, as many of you. I studied economics, but I've been a facilitator for my life, mainly like in the triangle between design thinking, system thinking, and future thinking. I love games. And what made me happy today is that for the 8th time in my life, a friend of mine asked me to be the best man in his wedding. So very nice. And my word was actually sisu. I studied in Finland, and there is like a fantastic word is about inner strength and resilience. But it's more because Finnish, grow up in the forest, so they need that kind of vibe. And what else? I passed the baton to my dear Josiane.
Grazie. So introduction to myself, relationship to sustainability. A word that I have. What's the other thing?
Something that makes you smile.
Okay. Having the memory to get through those 4 questions. I'm Josie Ann. I am a Quaker trustee, mostly, and a philanthropic advisor. So I'm a trustee of a Quaker Arts Network, which is a national charity that focuses on fusing arts and spirituality together, certainly focused around environmental action or environmental awareness. So we have something called the Loving Earth Project, which is a beautiful and very Quakerly response to those 2 things, environmental awareness and action. And I'm a philanthropic advisor with Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors. So I'm on an advisory council for the Shifting Systems Initiative, which is all about paradigmatic shifts, mindsets, behaviors, narratives in philanthropy and from philanthropy to the wider world. And I'm, I think, just the resident poet on the advisory council. And so I'm also a published poet and editor. And I think my poetry and my philanthropy advisory work and my Quakerism are 3 very guiding forces in my life. I also kind of host a community in North London, which is where Lena and GP heard about this event. So it's lovely to see you both here. And it's a mycelial network. It's a little mushroom community, but it's a story for another time. Relationship to sustainability. Yeah, I guess through the loving earth work mainly. And the Quaker values, sustainability is a core part of our core values since many years. I feel like there's feedback on the call. Is it just me, or is there someone who needs to be muted?
Alistair snuck his
Was it just
speaker off there.
okay?
I think we're waiting for yeah, go on, Josie. Karen.
Waiting for
No, that's fine.
Okay. Something that makes me smile. Good friends, good fun, and a word right now, faith. I'm thinking about the sound of the word faith and how it kind of represents the feeling of it too. It's very soft and floaty.
Emma, it's down to you.
Thanks. It's really great to hear from everyone. I'm much less employed than everyone else. I've just graduated and haven't found a job yet, but I'm based in Sheffield. I heard about this call through Josie Ann, actually, through her mycelial network, which she's very good at doing. And so I just thought I'd join because I'm really interested in what it's going to be like. I hope I'm going to be okay because I don't have many accolades behind me, but I did English literature, and now I'm really interested in like regenerative farming and food just distribution and things like that. So yeah, I think also I've just started a botany course online. So thing that's making me happy is my notes on that, which I got in this little book, and a word that I really like is, which you may not have heard, is petrichor, which is the scent produced when rain is a great smell. So yeah.
Wonderful. And a great word and a sense with it as well. Good work, Emma. And just to speak to that, nobody needs any qualifications to be here. Nobody needs any accolades. We just need to be living, breathing, feeling people. And that's what this game was created for, really. So just to talk a little about where it emerged from. So I'm source for this thing called the Piʌot project, which is a people-powered movement for regeneration. And we've spent a year listening to what might we do, and this idea of showing how decisions that we take now could be forks that take us into a better future if we'd made different decisions has been a project we were running with. We got some funding from the collective imagination practice community, but got a bit stuck at the coming forward with those fork ideas. It's like it's surprisingly difficult to go, oh well, the decision went that way, but we could have gone this way. So we wound it right the way back and went, right, well, we'll delve into those forks in the road. And that's what Cultural Capital Guardians, the game that we're going to play, is all about. And I've never done it virtually before, so this is a complete experiment. You're all complete guinea pigs, as you'll discover as we go through. But the purpose of it really is to walk through the process of change, to imagine how we could go from where we are to a more viable, a more beautiful future, and to do that from a wide range of different perspectives. And that's what we'll end up with at the end of the game, is an understanding of those different perspectives, how they all mesh together to create a reality and create a potential, and the contribution that different perspectives make, I guess. Before we get into the game, let's do a little bit of, let's have a potted history. So how did we get here? Well, we got fire, and then we got agriculture, and then we got cities, and then we got imperialization, and then we had enlightenment, and then we had colonialization and slavery and industry and capitalism and consumerism, the great acceleration, and then we got to this point, and we collapsed 7 of our 9 planetary boundaries. Sometimes that takes an entire workshop in itself, but I think we're all about on the same stage. That we've got to this strange point where we've kind of used up all of the options that nature gave us. We've run right into the headroom, and now we're at this point going, okay, what does different look like? And this game is a way of finding out what that difference might look like. When we talk about all those different areas where there are problems in the system, sometimes it's known as the polycrisis, lots of different things going wrong all at the same time. I've come to think of it and refer to it more as the metacrisis, because the polycrisis implies that the problem is out there in the system. And for me, the metacrisis turns that on itself and shines that light on ourselves and says that the crisis isn't out there. The crisis is in here, inside the heart of us, the agents of this moment when we're collapsing 7 of the 9 planetary boundaries. So that's what this game is for. It's for going inwards. So as part of that, I guess I'm here to be a sort of guide, which I believe might be something like a role that the storyteller and the dungeon master plays in Dungeons and Dragons. But literally, I know nothing about it other than what I've seen on Stranger Things. So I'm not gonna make any more allusions to Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, my role is to create a game and help take you through it. So I'm a facilitator. I have no greater knowledge than anyone here. My role is just to help us all go through this process. Because we're playing it virtually, I'm going to have to roll the dice. To be fair, I'm actually going to let my computer roll the dice. There you go. I don't know if you can see that. So you'll all be able to see when I roll the dice. But you're going to have to trust me that this thing actually rolls a random dice. And we have to trust each other as well. This is a safe space for us to make big leaps and to respect the leaps that others make and try and understand how different people come to different conclusions from different perspectives. So that's really what I want to hold for us all, is the space where we're able to do that. So just before we get into playing the game, let's just take a moment. Let's all settle in. So you're welcome to turn your screen off if you want. You don't feel you need to. Feel yourself in your chair, feet on the ground. Close your eyes if you wish. Shift your attention to your breathing. Just take a moment. Through the nose. Out through the mouth. I want to notice where you sat, your bottom. And not just your bottom, but the chair that's holding you in place. But it's not just a chair. It's an idea, a design, a collection of resources, a supply chain, a shopping experience. It's a thing, a mark on the balance sheet. It's a comfortable way of not sitting on the floor. So that chair that's holding up is more than just that chair. Now shift your attention upwards a little, inwards. Try and sense into your digestive system. That busy bit of the body that's just working away there. Gradually dissolving the sun's energy and the earth's nutrients and putting them to good use. Getting rid of the things that we don't want. Just try and notice it. Notice that process element, that exchange element between us and the rest of the world. If your attention's drifted away from your breathing, come back to the breathing. I always go in through my nose, out through my mouth. I learned breathing when I was doing martial arts. You might have a different breathing practice. I don't really think it matters. As long as the air comes in and goes out again. When it comes in, just sense where it goes in your lungs, in those tiny branching trees that pass on all that oxygen into our bloodstream. Take all the carbon dioxide back out. Pass them back out into the air to be received by another set of branching structures that do exactly the opposite. That miraculous relationship between our lungs and our trees. Because we have this idea of separation, that we're each alone and individuals in the world. When in reality, it's all connected. It's all part of the system. Okay. Open your eyes. Come back into the room. Thank you, everybody. Right. So let's start with a quick explanation. So like I said, this is a game that was meant to be played by anyone. It's kind of designed for people who want to draw people into these deep conversations, that people who want to shift others and their emotional connection to the things that are happening in the moment, but do that in a way that doesn't put up barriers and blockages, because it can be difficult to get into this conversation. So hopefully by playing a game, it's a quicker way in, a lower entropy way in. There's less heavy lifting. So we're going to play on Mural. I think some of you have had the link already. I'm going to pop it in the chat. I'm afraid if you want to move stuff around, you do need to log in. You do need to create yourself a Mural account. But don't worry if you can't see the Mural board, and don't worry if you can't log in and create accounts, because you'll be playing at least in pairs. So hopefully there's always going to be one part of the pair who can pick this up. So in a minute, we're going to choose personas. So you're each going to have a different capital guardian persona. I'll talk you through those in a minute. And you'll group together with others of the same persona, and you're going to do a lot of work in breakout groups. So you'll have conversations within breakouts, and then we'll come back together and we'll gather around the Mural board. So quickly, just to talk you through basic. He says, quickly, I'll talk you through the game, and then I went and collapsed the presentation that was in the background. So instead, why don't I screen share the game, and I'll talk you through it there. So let's get that up. So hopefully you can see. So this is the Three Horizons framework. I'm sure lots of you have come across the Three Horizons framework. I absolutely love it because it's this magical way of walking us through the change process. So you can see what's in decline, what's emerging, and where do we want to go. And those are Horizon 1, Horizon 2, and Horizon 3. And I've seen this game used lots of times. I first came across it back when I had a career working as head of economic policy. We used it to examine Yorkshire's food networks and really get under the skin of what was happening. But you can use it in almost any circumstance. What I wanted to do, though, was give people a different perspective on the change that is happening. So left and right, the graph is showing time, and up and down, it's prevalence of different parts of the system. So now at the moment, Horizon 1, business as usual, that's prevalent. So that's at the top. Yeah, we've got a few innovations in Horizon 2, and the emergent future, that more beautiful future that we're hoping for, is kind of lurking in the background. What I wanted to do was give you a new way into this. So I took a 8 capitals model from permaculture to find different ways of understanding, well, how is value and benefit created? I've seen businesses use something similar. So the Accounting for Sustainability teach a 6 capitals model. Yorkshire Water use 6 capitals in lots of their reporting. The 8 capitals model includes some extra ones, which I guess are more appropriate to the things that we need, which is why I chose it. And so the 8 capitals model, as well as intellectual capital, financial capital, social capital, manufactured capital, natural capital, includes cultural capital and spiritual capital, because the ways that we think and the ways that we connect with each other and the ways that we feel are often underrepresented, I feel, in dealing with change. So what we're going to do is you're each going to adopt a persona. So I think, is everyone okay seeing can everyone see my screen? Can you see that okay? So we've got a few people missing. So we've got 11 of us on the call. I think we need 5 groups. So can you see there's some lists of people next to different forms of capital. And I know, for example, Andrew's on his own, Alistair's on his own. I think Nick's on his own. So feel free just to chip in. If Alistair, have you got? Can I move you into another space? Into another role. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it using the dice. So we're going to roll an 8-sided dice, and it says 3, which is financial. Is that okay? Fine. So Andrew, you're no longer on your own. We've got Alistair in there. Can anyone else spot someone who's on their own? I don't think we've got any spiritual capital guardians. I don't think Ali, Jayavanthi, or Pascal have joined us. So we might want to adopt that one. Let's have a look. So we're not going to have anyone there. Josiane and Gianpetro are social. Charles and Candice are manufactured. Emma, Nat, and Lena are experiential. Nick, I think you might be on your own. Oh, we haven't got Nick with us now. So we've got no one on natural capital as well. And then we've got Olivia, we've got Sally and Simon on cultural capital. Does anyone think that they're on their own or in the wrong one? But you don't get to choose. If you want to go into a different one, we're going to let the fates decide, just to say, because that's part of it. It's kind of leaning into the not knowing. But I'm thinking that we've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, they're not there either, are they? We've got 5 groups. Are we happy with those groups? Stop sharing for a minute. Good. Right. If we're happy, in a moment, I'm going to invite you to go into a breakout group with other people who've got the same Capital Guardian persona. But just to start, there are some prompts. Can you see these cards? On each of these cards, there's a prompt. So here on financial capital, the reflection is life in service to finance, or is finance in service to life? So for each of the Capital Guardian personas, there's a little prompt on those cards on the left-hand side there, just to help you reflect on it and just to give you a couple of minutes to get into your role. So we're going to take 2 minutes. I'm going to try and play some music. If it'll actually let me play it through the thing. Take 2 minutes, grab a pen, grab some paper, reflect on your role. If you've got any questions, ask them in the chat or just shout out. And once you've reflected on your role, 2 minutes time, then we're gonna go into breakout groups with other people who've got the same persona as you, and you're gonna have a shared conversation about the reflection that you just had.
I don't seem to be able to open the, or can we? How do we open the guide book thing?
Can you not get into the mural, Emma?
I don't think I can.
So you're an experiential Capital Guardian. You're with Nat and Lena, and your reflection is, how does it feel to be part of your business or industry? How's our well-being? I know you're not currently in a business or industry, but I guess how does it feel to be in the world of work would be one to reflect on. And the definition is experiential capital is a uniquely personal combination of social and intellectual capital that forms the nature of our being, how we experience the world.
Okay. Thanks.
There were lots of heads down while I think people were doing personal reflection. All those heads have come up. So I think we've had time to go, okay, I'm a cultural capital guardian. This is the question that I'm asking myself. What do I think about it? Now you're going to join a breakout group for just 5 minutes, just to talk with each other about what it feels like to step into the shoes of that guardian persona. And whilst you're there, can you come up with a name for your guardian? So you can, for those of you who can see the board, you'll see you've got little people, little meeples, which we were going to move around the board. I'd love it if you could give each of your meeple a name. Right, let me pop you into breakout group. So you should be able to choose for yourself which one to join. Can you see that? So choose the breakout that goes with your Capital Guardian persona. We'll find other people in there. No, Nat's shaking her head. Okay. Hang on. Allow participants to choose the room. There we go. Does that work? Fab. Okay. Help yourself to a breakout room. If you get stuck at any point, just come out. I'll be here. You can ask any questions.
Oh, okay, sorry. I see now. Sorry.
That wasn't 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was two.
We're about
You're right. It was two. I've been sat here going, I'm going to push the button and end it when 5 minutes is up. Would you like another 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Please.
Right.
Yes,
Good.
please.
Is everybody,
For sure.
are we all happy? Are we all into it?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Right. The rooms are open. You can choose to go back. They're never long enough, are they? Sorry. So, despite them not being long enough, Alistair, I think you're still buzzing a bit. Despite them not being long enough, I hope you had time to get into the discussion and feel yourself into that role of being a capital guardian. I'd love to hear how it went. Does anyone want to share how it felt to step into that role? Any insights it provided?
I'm prepared to kick off, Tim.
Thank you.
This is Charles and Candice, and we were in the manufactured section. Two main observations. One, I'm with a genius who understands it. And secondly, is actually aiming for the having no waste feasible answer when we're manufacturing so much that it will take even more energy to reverse engineer back so we do not have a lack of waste. So, yes, 3 points.
Well, very good for being the first one to feedback, but minus points for not coming up with a name. So must try better.
Not enough time.
Sorry, tech fail on my part there. What about the other groups?
I guess I don't mind quickly going. We came up with the name Patagonia. I'm not sure if it's actually, but Alistair seemed to reckon that there's a theme in the financial world of people wearing Patagonia outfits, and we thought we'd try and repurpose finance to be more like the actual Patagonia.
Lovely.
That might be completely wrong, but yeah, we quite liked it. I guess quick observations. Alistair pointed out that there's obviously a double bind that the financial industry doesn't really have a feedback loop to curb its worst excesses, so therefore, people are free to price gouge and everything else without a problem. I guess the other thing was without finance, we'd all suffer. So we currently need the finance system. If you took that away today, it'd be part of H1 and maybe H3 needs to be something else. So.
Wow. Thanks, Andy. Patagonia, great name. I think they've banned doing corporate tie-ins with financial institutions to avoid that thing. What about our other group?
I can start with the talk of the social capital guardians. Josiane and I, so we are the social capital guardians, and we thought about it that stepping in this role is feel like to be communicators, to be inclusive, to embrace diversity, and so the question was about: are we building social connection in community or perpetuating the separation from the others? And we thought about it that we cannot start a community already with a separation. So we're definitely embracing the part of, because the separation is like everyone in the community is different, is unique. And so it's like, but together is like, at least as a start, we can definitely like go for a building social connection all together. So it's really embracing that part of the inclusivity and creating a kind of mycelium net. So that's why we call it as a name of a fungus, like a mushroom that is porcino. So our maple is called porcino, like the king of mushrooms or the queen of mushrooms, as you prefer.
Beautiful. And thank you for your rhizome network drawing you all here. That's wonderful. It's perfect. Who have we not heard from? Experiential. How did you get on? Who's in that one? Emma, Nat, Lena. How did it feel?
I thought Nat summed it up nicely. She said that the common theme with the things that we spoke about was polarization. So I spoke about coming from design and tech field, and I feel that the well-being is dictated by the capital flows, particularly venture capital culture. Nat was talking about the regenerative space, that it's feeling fragmented, installed, and under-resourced. And Emma was talking about working on regenerative farms and also feeling that you've got the big farms that are linked to corporations, and the people who have more regenerative ideas find it difficult to coexist. And so the question was, is there a way of crossing that border? And the name for the character was like polar bear that we came up with.
I love it. Fab. Oh, that's so cool. Right, so right, we're going to play it. Now that you're into your roles, we're going to start playing the game. So I'm hoping that in each of your group, you've got someone who is able to pick up. They're called meeples, the little characters. So pick up your little meeple. Let me share screen so you can see what I'm doing. So I've picked up the spiritual capital meeple. Hang on, there you go. You can see what I'm doing now. I've picked up the spiritual capital meeple and I'm moving them to this start point here, right at the beginning of Horizon 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into our breakout groups and we are going to reflect on this question, because this start point is where we are right now, where business as usual thinks it's doing all right. They think they're doing fine. But I'm sure most of us on the call know we can start to see that it's slipping away, that it is in decline. So what we're going to do is we're going to use your perspective as a capital guardian to go, I know, I can see that it's slipping away, and here's the thing that makes it more visible to me. You're welcome to pop those on these post-it notes down in the sandbox. Again, if I can.
Tim, we all need editing rights. We
You,
can't move anything.
Is there a
Yes,
no? You need to log in to Mural to do that.
I log in, yes.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
am
have
as well.
anything right.
Once we've logged in, Tim, we then have to ask you for editing rights.
Well, that's handy, isn't it? What a marvelous. Oh, I see. I've got lots of emails from you all. Okay. Right. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment while I give you all editing rights. Hang on.
Just wanted to
Be nice if there was like a group approval, wouldn't it? Thank you all for logging into Mural and being willing to do it. I know it's a pain when you have to do extra things like that. Simon, you're Olivia, Lena. Oh, you're all digital natives, aren't you? Look at you all piling in there. Beautiful. Thank you so much, everybody. I did warn you that we were all guinea pigs. So, hopefully you should all now have editing rights. What? Has everybody got access to it now? No, I've given you all permission. I promise. I promise. Right. Well, let's give it 5 minutes, and hopefully that will work its way through. We'll grapple with some other technology, which is the Zoom breakout rooms. But what we're going to do is we're going to go into breakout rooms, and we're going to reflect on this question: what evidence do you see to suggest that the current system is under strain, no longer fits the emerging conditions, knowledge, and societal requirements, or is even failing? So we're going to do it in 5 minutes. I'll probably have to pop you in again because I haven't been able to find the function to change them. But yeah, 5 minutes in your same breakout group as before, looking at this question from the perspective of your guardian. I'll pop it back in the chat as well when you've gone into the breakout groups. So. And you see those, there we go.
Yeah.
Hello again. 3 minutes is what it's set at the moment. Would you like another 3 minutes to carry on that conversation? Thumbs from Charles.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Right. I'm also in the process of actually approving all your requests to join the mural. So when you come back,
seems to be working now for me anyway. So
yeah, I won't put technical do that. I'll let you go back into your room. 3 more minutes. Thank you, everyone. You all right, Josiane? Just stuck with a frown. There you go. Hello again. That's it. We've had 6 minutes. We've had an extra minute to make up for the mess that I've made with the breakout groups. Sorry about that. I still haven't found a way to change that in the behind the scenes settings, but I have been able to invite all of those who said they wanted access to the mural into the mural. So now you'll be able to add your own comments and move your little meeples around. I do actually have meeples for when we play this game in real life. But I was overjoyed. The one good thing I found about Mural so far is it's got meeples on it, these little characters. So that's been a good thing. Right, let's. Now you've had a chance to feedback. Did anyone not get to the point where any groups not get to the point where you're able to make notes? Was anyone held back from that? Does anyone need an extra minute to make notes on the board? Good. In that case, this is the place where we would roll a dice to see who was going to share their feedback. But unless anyone wants to get the fancy dice roll out, it's not really an app on your computer. I'm going to roll the dice and see who feeds back first. So we've got 7, which is natural capital. We'll roll that again. We've got a natural capital. We haven't got a spiritual capital. 5, manufactured capital. Charles and Candice, would you like to share your reflections? And I'll pop them. Sorry, they're not your reflections, are they? They're Morris's reflections.
They're Morris's reflections. Morris was talking about how there's still a misunderstanding actually of what recycling is at a very basic level, and Charles, you might have to jump in here because we didn't make any notes, but also not really understanding the value of returning a material to its same value. We also spoke about sort of different generations, maybe certainly younger generations driving the change because current manufacturers, it's just sort of too complex or complicated or expensive to change. Charles, is there anything you want to add?
Just what you just said, we're making our most profit from linear production and consumption. So manufacturers are finding it very hard to turn down the profit potential to adopt the system.
Great, fine. Thank you, guys. Let's roll again.
Sorry, I think your white noise is still coming through.
Let's have a look. Who's number 3? That's financial. Would you like to let us know how you can observe that the system is collapsing at the moment?
Yeah, I guess I was making notes. Not sure if Alice is okay with me jumping in, but yes, I think the most obvious for me anyway was the climate crisis as a sign that the system was failing because most of the finance system, doesn't necessarily value nature. So that's the key thing from that. Alice made some good points about obviously it doesn't work with its own logic. Without a planet, there is no finance system, but the finance system helps, kind of wreck the planet. It's not equal. There's obviously a lot of people at the top who, own more wealth than the people at the 50% of the people at the bottom. So, which creates a lot of disenfranchisement and doesn't necessarily help assets flow around the system. Obviously, it's based on issuing debt, which means create more debt. Obviously, more wealth creates more wealth. On the flip side of that, the system has to grow by a certain percentage each year. So you've got the infinite growth on a finite planet, which obviously doesn't work, doesn't make any sense, but still we're in there. And I also made a good point about, was it Jubilee? I'm not sure what the second half of that term was, where in olden times, sometimes every 50 years, they'd have a kind of mass write-off of debt. I've not heard of that one. So anything else you want to throw in, Alistair?
Did I miss Alistair shaking his head? Let's have another one because I think we've got time for an extra one. There is no group number 1. Still no group number 1. No group number 2 either. 7. Who's 7? We've got no group 7. Still haven't got group 7. We've had financial. Oh, this would be a lot of fun if we were actually rolling dice rather than you just looking at me pressing buttons on my manufactured. Oh, I give up on pressing the buttons. Would anyone else? Would any of the other groups like to share theirs? Because rolling dice to choose someone isn't actually working. So what about cultural or social groups? Go on, Olivia.
Yeah, I'm happy to go on behalf of culture, which I did with Simon. So we were essentially talking about where businesses no longer fit for purpose, the sort of sense of mass consumerism, the promotion of competition over collaboration, that sense of that sort of scarcity mindset, which is leading us to sort of feel we need to accumulate ever more. And the ever more accumulation we were discussing goes beyond sort of material and financial goods, but even just knowledge. We've got a growing book list of things to do, a growing list of books to read, a growing list of things to learn. So we feel sort of overwhelmed by the enormity of needing to accumulate more at every level, and that's sort of too much choice. So we question how we can navigate back towards more meaning and true value.
Wow. Who else? What about social? Would you guys like to share your thoughts?
Yes, Josiane or me?
Whoever.
Well, I can start, and Josiane is gonna definitely put more. So it's like, yeah. So we are the social guardians and Porcini, and we are very sad right now because we can see a lot of signs that the something is falling down, and we notice that there are so many race riots or law against trans rights or genocides around. I don't know if I can use this word, but for me, it's like is quite good to say that use that word. And there is a lot of fundamentalism in general. There is also like pro-Western, anti-Western ideology. There is a very big rise of mental health that is connected to a lot of social isolation, and there is a lot of like as well a lot of suicides or also like homicides inside the family, or there is a lot of ageism and classism and reduce money for the healthcare and the social care, or also reduce trust in the government and decrease of civil engagement or erosion of trust. And but I'm talking too much, so I take the second part of my I give the word to my half part of my guardian part. Josiane.
Said it perfectly. And unfortunately, all of that is true.
Yeah. It was a long list, wasn't it? We'll
yeah.
talk about.
We are very sad. We are very sad as a guardian. Yeah.
Cultural group. Oh, we've had cultural group. Is that everyone? Has everyone fed back? I'll stop sharing for a minute. So before we move on to the next stage, I think it's just worth having a quick reflection amongst ourselves. Like, what came up there? What did it make you think? I was particularly drawn to the link between Morris's reflection about linear productivity and consumption, and Smiley's reflection about we're a society of consumers. What other links and themes did people make? Did anything stand out that was new for you in particular? Any new connections? Go on, Lena.
I just wanted to flag that polar bear hasn't spoken. So if someone from the experiential group would like to speak, because I spoke last time. So if anybody would like to.
I don't mind jumping in. Basically, ours was very similar in a way. The image, we were very image based. We had the image of a toddler on the floor of a supermarket having a tantrum. Just felt like everything, that the kind of systems theory, when the dominant system is dying, it kind of flails around in its attempt to live. And that's what it feels like. Everything's really erratic and doesn't make sense, and therefore we've got cognitive dissonance because we're living one life, but we're in a world that is changing very slowly and eroding our rights, and we've got this kind of disbelief it can't be true. So I think that was the general gist of what we talked about.
So are there any other connections that anyone wants to make between any of those observances of the system being under strain or potentially collapsing?
It's just not looking good. That's what's coming to mind.
I think also it
It's a
goes
good
back.
bit. We'll go there, I promise.
Sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to speak over you. I think for me it goes back to what you were saying. It's this inward, and I think some of the polar bear group, it's the stuff we are struggling with personally, collectively, this changing world, and holding on and trying to feed ourselves with stuff that obviously ties into the manufacturing side as well. But I think, yeah, for me, it really highlights what you said earlier on, Tim, that it's a lot of the inwards work. We're so busy looking outwards, but if we can, as humans, start looking inward deeper, that a lot of the stuff comes up, and there's a bit of an unpacking there. That's what's come up for me.
Yeah, I guess I've got a quick one. I guess came up in our conversation with Alistair about the fact that we did a donut economics action lab workshop, and then one of the key things that came out of that was the fact that a lot of people are in survival mode, whether that's financial, health, or whatever. So it's really hard for them to spend any time worrying about the climate crisis or the meta crisis, or actually thinking about solutions.
That feels like a part of the existential reflection that people are in crisis mode. Josiane, please.
I think my question that I'm sitting with, or an observation, one of which is the signs are so clear that the system is broken, and actually all of the things that we're naming, came to mind so quickly. But the way that it was phrased as, in what ways can you? What was the question? In what ways are you?
That the system is under strain, no longer fits emerging.
Yeah, exactly. These are the signs, and they're clear. So that's one side. And to frame them as signs that the systems are under strain is really helpful. These things are symptomatic. On the other hand, what really resonated with me is someone saying that the finance system is destroying the planet. So I'm also questioning, and this is a common question that we think about in systems, but are these signs that the system is broken, or are these signs that the system is working? You know what I mean? Like, either way, the system's going to change. But I don't know if they're signs that the system is under strain, or that they are signs that the system is working exactly as it should. And indeed, maybe, it depends on the system, exactly. But yeah. No, go. Let's move on. Second horizon. Let's go.
No, we can't. And I'm quite, I want us to have fun with this, but equally, I don't. That's the temptation, isn't it? The temptation is, okay, we've touched something there. Let's move on as quickly as we can.
I'm gonna jump in and throw
to just spend a moment here.
Consideration there, a feeling of being victims of a system that we were born into. And for me, a reflection back on if the limits of growth were established kind of late 60s, early 70s, and we're 50 years on, and we can all see that it doesn't work, and it hasn't been working, and we knew it wasn't going to work. But yet we're still sat within it, trying to break free and trying to course correct when there are very big, powerful things at play.
I'll just add something. I played this game once before, and it was very comfortable being the spiritual guardian in that role. That felt good. And scanning over the 8 capitals, I think finance strikes me as the one that's got most sort of in terms of what I feel, like guilt and shame in that, if I'm standing as a representative in that role, because it's the worldview that's so exquisitely taken to its extreme in the world of finance that's driving the damage in all the other things, and constantly, you know, trying to extract something from the other form, like take something out of the other forms of capital and turn it into financial capital. So yeah, it's
Thank you, Alistair. And that's, it would be easy just to include the nice bits, the spiritual capital, the cultural capital, the natural capital, but that's not how systems work. Systems are everything, so we need to draw on all the bits. But I love that you shared how it felt to put yourselves in those shoes. And my guess is that that's quite a different feeling to most of the people in those shoes, unless maybe they were doing this exercise. Don't know. Before we move on, thank you for, particularly, does anyone want to share anything about how this makes them feel? Because we talk about the things that we know and our very clever analysis of this, but I had to stop talking before because I felt this, I feel this. I want to hear how other people feel, if you want to share.
I guess for me, it's kind of, there's two sides to this kind of conundrum. A, it's easy to feel powerless because you can't do much about, the kind of the much wider system, and all the problems seem very hard and intractable. I guess on the flip side, I mean, channeling the kind of the H3 ideas, I do see lots of kind of work in this area. I mean, obviously things like this, donut economics, inner development goals. So being kind of aware that it's going on and being happy to kind of engage with that does seem to give you, at least me anyway, a sort of a power that I'm not powerless in, as much as I can join workshops like this. I can discuss the topic. I can maybe go and grow food, or try and decouple myself from the financial system. So there's two halves to that, being kind of feeling powerless in a sense, but then feeling powerful because I understand what's going on to some level and feel like I'm engaged in a solution to try and get out of that, which I know a lot of people might not be. So I'm maybe not as far, maybe not as early in the kind of grief journey as other people might be. But yeah, I appreciate it's a difficult topic for a lot of people to talk, even just talk about. So
thank you, Andy. Thank you. Go on, Emma.
I I sort of have quite followed a journey of how I've been reacting to it over time, and in the since I left school, basically. I'm now 25, but I've now reached a stage where I all of my thinking about it is so exhausting that I just have to do some action, but yeah, when I really think about it, I get mainly frustrated that it seems to be so such a privilege to even have these discussions and these types of thoughts, because most people aren't thinking this way. But that's what makes it so frustrating, is because how do you sort of tip the balance and make sure it's not an echo chamber, and feel like you're kind of spreading rather than just cooped up and thinking all the time. Yeah, that's
Thank
how
you.
I'm feeling.
I heard a longing for purpose and meaning in there, which is lovely.
Or at least just to build on what Emma was saying, the longing for purpose and meaning, insofar as it expands this thinking and doesn't kind of stay in its own echo chamber. So I think the purpose and meaning seemed clear to Emma, but what it was is that how do I get out? How do we get this conversation out to people who are not having this conversation necessarily? In case that resonates with what your share was, Emma. But yeah, I resonate with that for sure.
Nina?
I would respond to that in the sense of I would treat this like I would treat, I don't know, a coaching approach, which is you have to work with people where they're at. So perhaps also like understanding where people are in their journey and that it's also unethical to impose certain things. So yeah, that would be another thing in terms of campaigning. That just a point to throw out there.
Lovely. And just to add, so this is meant to be a game that can meet people where they're at and take them somewhere different. So afterwards, I'd welcome all your feedback, but particularly feedback on things like that. Is this game meeting people where they are, or is it still too big a leap for people to make? It's hard for me to see. Would anyone else like to share how they're feeling before we jump back into our personas and get on to the next stage, where we're going to let go of business as usual? We're going to talk about the things that we need to let go of, the stuff that we can slough off like an old skin that no longer fits us anymore. But before we get there, any final contributions? Or if anyone knows how to change the timings on breakout rooms whilst you're in a meeting, that would be good as well. And I can see Simon's Googling it as we speak. I also Googled it. I couldn't work it out. So.
I think you need to go to your settings. You might need to log in again via the browser and then change the timer settings or something.
That sounds terribly awkward. Should we just stick with running 2 lots of 3 minutes? Because that roughly gets us to about 5 minutes, is where we were. And it's you know. Right. Okay. So if you want to go back to the board, pick up your meeples. I'm going to pick up the spiritual meeple. I'm going to put them on the next reflection. Oh, it hides behind it. I'm going to put it next to the next reflection.
And Tim,
yes.
A couple of us need to leave at 4. So should we just do this round of breakouts, and then will you be able to swap people who are remaining? So Nat's partner and my partner, GP.
And at that point, I might be able to retime the breakout. So that's a good suggestion. So we're heading down business as usual. We're starting to. It is in decline, and what we want to see is which bits of the system do we need to let go of. What's our cultural capital guardian? What's our capital guardian hanging on to that they need to let go of to make space for something new to come? So we'll do 2 lots of 3 minutes reflection in your breakout rooms. There you go. Hello, everyone. Oh, see, I'm halfway through changing the things. So I just need to quickly name them. Cultural. Sorry about that. Thank you for bearing with me. And let's not set those for 5 minutes. Let's set those for 3 minutes. Right. They're open. You guys okay? Sorry, the numbering slightly changed. Nat, your experiential capital. Gianpietro, your social, and Charles, your manufactured. Charles, did you see your meeting room invite?
Yes, Candice and I had a quick chat. But do you want to put it up again? Sorry, I've missed it. Please.
So, look.
Uh,
I'll pop you in. There you
Thank
go.
you. Thank you very much. Typing two things, adding confusion.
I know. Tell me about it.
Hopefully, I will go. I've not seen anything pop up yet.
Hang on. Let me try again.
There we go.
There you go. Hello. Oh. We've lost some folk in the transition. Financial capital and social capital. They're just chattering away. I can see them in there. And cultural capital. They're all there. Why? There you go. They're going to get kicked out. That's why. I was panicking then. Some of you, the button popped up and you pressed the button, and the rest of you carried on chatting. And I thought the rest of you had left the meeting after Josiane had said you needed to leave soon. So thank you for coming back. What I propose is let's do a quick 5 minutes feedback on this, because really the crux of this session is about the next reflection about forks in the road and decisions taken that are moving us in the wrong direction. I'd really like just to spend 5 minutes in your breakout rooms thinking about about that fork in the road. So let's do a quick 5-minute feedback. We'll finish it at 1:45, and then we'll jump into one last breakout session. So who wants to go first on feedback on the things that we need to let go and the experience of thinking about letting go rather than thinking about what we're going to do new?
Charles is going to shout up just for the sake of getting the conversation going. A very strong point by Candice, which I think sums it up. Possibly all manufacturing should be using recycled feedstock, which is superb. And then we went down a rabbit hole about trying to keep up with untested chemicals. And I quoted the stat that there are at least 14,000 different versions of PFCs. So I know it's just a nightmare trying to keep there. But Candice's main point about we should not be manufacturing using virgin materials, I find really, really hard to find any argument against. I think it's superb.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maurice. Who else would like to go?
I guess I'll quickly jump in. We got onto the topic of dependence on the financial system, which obviously I then raised universal basic income as an idea, and then Alistair made a really good point about if you pay enough money to people so they aren't dependent on the financial system, who's to say that all the jobs that actually keep everyone alive, like food growing, energy, electricity, would actually be taken up by everybody, or would the whole system collapse just because everyone went, oh, I can't bother growing food, so no one would grow food. So there's a great point there about UBI maybe being further along the spectrum, and we still need a lights on kind of H1.
Alistair, are you going to carry on?
Yeah, I was just having a bit of a brain freeze there. The thing that I was thinking about as a guardian of finance is not like we started off with this feeling that finance is the sort of the dirty meeple in the room, but then there's a stewardship and there's a sense of like a lot of this is people's pensions, and there's a lot of people, finance is an amazing trust technology that's emerged and allows things to move all over the place. But one of its Achilles heels is this constantly needing to grow the quantum of money more and more and more each year. And that drives us to be marketed all these goods that we don't need and to sort of do all these sort of shenanigans in financial markets just for the whole thing to grow. So the thing to leave behind is there a way out of wealth, of finance? How would you get out? What would need to change in the wiring of the financial system for it not needing to structurally grow all the time? I do know enough to know that would really cause a massive implosion. But maybe it's worth happening sooner rather than later.
We're letting go of growth. Any other feedback from the other groups before we move on to our forks in the road?
We had the same
Yeah,
in
we can.
social.
Yeah, go, Joseph.
Yeah, go ahead. Just to say, yeah, exactly the same. That one of the things that we identified as part of the system we need to let go of in social capital is wealth accumulation at all costs, especially when it gets to that point of like the Gini coefficient is very high and index, and also where the wealth accumulation becomes exploitative and extractive. And I think you can accumulate wealth without that happening, but there's a point where you can't.
Thank you. Olivia.
And I just wanted to pick up on the word growth, and we sort of delved into that word and chose to slightly redefine it because there's an element of what is sort of cultural, like our meeple, and where is there an element of human nature? And I think there's an element of accepting human nature that we constantly in some way seek to grow, and that means to improve ourselves. So can we redefine what growth looks like in terms of depth, in terms of quality, in terms of connection, in terms of sort of looking at Also kind of looking at the sort of collective over the individual rather than the sort of separation. So rather than kind of use growth as just a dirty word, we wanted to kind of slightly requalify it and understand that there's human nature and how do we work within that as well.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm.
And so just to speak to what Alistair was saying about the bits of the financial system we need to keep. In some versions of the Three Horizons framework, you'd now go on and say, well, okay, we've let go of some bits of the system. What bits do we need to keep? We're not going to do that. We are going to say, right, we have reached this point. It's a fork in the road. We can see decisions that are being taken which are perpetuating business as usual or constrained by business as usual. So what this next breakout session is about is what are those specific examples? What government has made a choice that diminishes our future? What business has made a choice which is moving us in the wrong direction and perpetuating business as usual? And try and be as specific as you can to here's this specific point, because they form a jumping off point to our futures. So that's where we'll get to. So I'll pop the question in the chat. It's the next stage on the thing. It's the fork in the road with the sarcastic looking sun, which is of all the pictures is definitely my favorite. This should keep you in for 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll feedback on this, and then we'll have a break. And I know some of us are going to leave, and then we'll come and carry on after that. Fab.
Would I just be able to quickly add something?
Of course you can, Emma.
Thanks, which is Lena's point, which is that overarching all of this, we should be considering that most of us are talking probably from the perspective of the global north, and so we put first world problems on the board just to try and like remind ourselves that we're viewing growth from a comfortable, developed position, whereas obviously that's not the same for probably the majority of people around the world. So just to bear that in mind, overarching everything that we're saying.
No, beautiful. Thank you for drawing that. I'm sure we all feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. 5 minutes. Businesses that are diminishing our future, that are a fork from the perspective of your capital guardian. There you go. It's been 3 minutes again. Everyone, welcome back. Looking at the board, it looks like this bit's proving tricky. It's hard to identify those specific decisions, isn't it? How's about instead of not going back into the breakout groups, we all just spend the last 8 minutes in conversation about those decisions and why it's so hard to identify? Because this is the reason that this game has been developed, because it's hard to go, actually, that's the decision that could have been taken differently. So I'm interested in both your suggestions, and I can see there's some coming out there, but also in your reflections on why it can be difficult to see the potential forks in the road.
So Charles is going to kick in again because he seems to talk too much. It's something we've always said within Morris, the manufacturer. It's our main source of income is producing new and kicking out new rather than refurbish. But I was actually able to come back to you with an example. If we have a service sector, it's to remove the VATs from repairs and refurbishment, because I work in waterproof jackets. It's cheaper to buy a new waterproof jacket often than it is to get your current one up to performance levels. Unfortunately.
Well, really good example, Charles. Thank you.
Although, wouldn't you argue that at some point you need to price that into the system, right? So if you're removing VAT, then is there not a sort of unintended consequence of then actually not contributing to central government?
We don't necessarily have to worry about the levers at this point. We can just look for the forks. Let's not get bogged down. What about some of the other ones that I don't recognize? SBTI, spend-based emissions methodology. Who uses that? What's that?
That was me. Yeah, I'll drop that in. So SBTI, well, say for example, DFS had their SBTI submission, their net zero plan approved, but only after setting that based on spend-based emissions, which removes a lever of change potentially to them, because it's going, how much does a sofa cost, not what are the materials that make up the sofa.
Wow, I've got to say, I've never heard, Simon, of spend-based emissions before. So it makes me worry if those are the metrics we're using.
Yeah, it's a major problem.
Too many TLAs.
I think that is a probably strong metaphor, but one of the reasons why it's difficult sometimes to see what are the change and like how the big companies, corporates, or public sector are acting, and if everything is kind of falling down, is that we are like a frog inside the pot. It's like that is getting warmer and warmer. Like there is always like tiny increment of temperature, but we cannot feel it, or we feel it only what we already know. And it's difficult to see because there is less space for confrontation and communication with other people. So that's why it's for us it's difficult sometimes to understanding how it's like things are fragmenting in a bad way or like falling down. It was quite intense in the last section, because we already started to say all the things that were going wrong, and now they were actually changing, and both on like cutting salaries or of the public sector, using like marketing before just to say like, oh, are they working enough, or also like promoting the gig economy jobs, and without giving any kind of support for them, or even like hostile architecture that is like normalizing the fact that people don't have any kind of they don't have any house, cannot sleep rough, they have to sleep rough, or they cannot sleep on the bench where you are sitting down during the day. So there are so many things that there are, but it's difficult actually to filter them. because we are like a frog, unfortunately, in the pot.
Beautiful metaphor. Thanks, Giancarlo. Gianpetro. I think that's a really powerful insight into what stops us seeing those potential decision points.
I guess we had one related. This is a financial meeting, Alistair, related to quantitative easing. I guess one of the biggest kind of decisions that was made in recent times was the 2008, I think, bailout of the banks by the government to keep them afloat. And it's obviously interesting. We got talking about, rather than giving money to the banks who are basically going to speculate with it or issue it as more debt, which is basically business as usual, if instead they'd actually injected that money into the lower levels of the system, i.e. by giving it to people, similar to the furlough scheme when people couldn't work, that would probably maybe not caused the banks to collapse, but I'm not sure it maybe have helped with helping money circulate around the local economy to keep things in business. Because obviously I assume the banks spend less, presuming in the local economy, than probably the people do. So then maybe that was a good way to get the money flowing around the system and keep the system going.
Brilliant example there. Really, really tangible. We possibly could have done something differently. And yeah, I'm not going to. It's not my space to share thoughts. Come on, 2 more minutes, and then we're going to have a break. Some of us are going to leave, and then the rest of us will carry on, and we'll use these forks and the values conversation we're having as jumping off points to imagine beautiful futures. Does anyone want to reflect any more on these forks in the road? Lena, please.
Oh, is somebody going to say something?
Sorry, Lena, I was just going to ask why you've put agriculture, so you're speaking.
Oh, yes. So polar bear, it came up. For me, I was just extremely shocked to learn about that. So agriculture, I learned more about land laws when I was studying at Schumacher College in Devon. And we had a section just, learning about regenerative agriculture and all things related to that. So when I learned about UK land laws, I was just, stunned. And 1 to 5 years lease for land and then thank you to Emma for giving me the term to look up, tenant farming, which I wasn't aware of that term. So I was able to look up that term. Yeah, I mean, food security is an issue. And also, I'm thinking about this from a UK perspective. And so, one issue is there's not enough people wanting to farm. And the reason why there's not enough people wanting to farm is that it's hard work, it's underpaid. And another reason why it's hard is that it's difficult to do because of the laws around it. So yeah, 1 to 5 years to do regenerative agriculture is not enough. Especially if you're competing with I think the term that Emma used was like the corporate farms or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you know the terms better than I do, Emma. But yeah.
Big guys.
Wow. Josiane, I know you've got to go, so we'd love to hear from you before you.
I think my main observation about the question of the forks in the road, which I love, by the way, I think you're right, it's the crux of the game. To think about the forks is that the forks, at least for me, maybe for others too, they weren't hard to identify. It's actually really clear the choices that organizations are making in relation to their context. For instance, businesses in the States choosing to remove language around diversity and equality and inclusion to appease their government and to continue to operate. I think what's more interesting is knowing that you're at a fork in the road, knowing that you're facing a choice and making a conscious decision to make a choice. Are you aware of the implications of that? The way that choice sediments a type of fabric going forwards. Like, what are the 5-year, 10-year implications of removing DEI from a website, for example? Like, or banning trans rights, not in and of itself as an event, but how does that continue? What are the implications of that long term? And I think that's not what I don't have awareness of that. But the choices are clear. Like I can see the choices organizations are making, and I understand why as well. I know it's complicated. You know.
Thanks, Josie. I'm going to pause just for 10 minutes, just to allow us to shake out and grab a breath of fresh air and have a drink. If anyone's got to leave, please feel free. If anyone wants to say anything and they've got to leave and you want to just say something before you do, now is your opportunity, because in a minute we're all going to turn our cameras off and go and grab a breath of fresh air. Lena.
It was nice meeting everyone, and for those of you leaving, see you later, but I'll be back afterwards.
Right, 10 minutes. Oh, welcome back. Shuffling through my inspirations cards, because the next stage is inspiration. So, somebody put a number in the chat between 1 and 12. 3. 1, 2, 3. So, inspiration from Kate Wayworth, rebel economist, founder of Donut Economics, who reminds us that our 21st century challenge is to meet the needs of everyone within the means of the planet, which I think that's what we've been talking about, isn't it? Go on, give me another number. Let's see what else. 5, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7. Right, so we've got one of those was Kate again. Okay, Jason Hickel, post-growth academic, author of that book. That book, what's that book? Less is more. There you go. And he said clean energy might help deal with emissions, but it does nothing to reverse deforestation, overfishing, soil depletion, and mass extinction. And probably, those of you who know me have heard me quote this one before. This was number 7, Bayo Akinmolafe, philosopher, writer, and professor of psychology, who reminds us that the times are urgent. We must slow down. Genuinely, that is the most profound thing that I've reflected on all the way through my journey. I keep coming back to that statement. Well, welcome back. Thank you for rejoining us. We're gonna branch out from our fork, and we're gonna start to imagine what a more beautiful future might look like. So before we get there, we are going to think about the values that the cards. So this is a card game. So all of these things that we're doing here, Emma, they're all a card game, which normally we'd play in person. Alistair's played it, or he's played the first part of it, and a couple of other people have played it. So this is the first time we've done it virtually. But all of this is based on actual cards that I've created. You can download them for yourself from the Collective Imagination Practice website. So you can dig into all these. You can print it out for yourselves. You can play it with your own friends and your own communities. That's the point of this, is that we can iterate on it. Right. So before we make the leap into imagining those more beautiful futures that might have branched off by choosing different interpretations of those forks, I want us to take a moment to think about the values, beliefs, norms, practices that would support a more viable future. So once again, I'm going to pop you into breakouts. If you struggle because you've got no one in your breakout room, just leave, and I'll pop you into another one. I'm not quite sure how they stack up now that a few people have left, but yeah, we're onto the green card with the lady with her binoculars, looking at the values that make a more viable future. Right, there you go. As the room's open.
Quick question, Tim. Are we still doing this from our...
Absolutely. You're still Morris. Hello. You're on your own now, because your colleague, I've forgotten the name already.
Yeah, Josiane left. Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, but I was already reflecting. Yeah, it's all right.
You're happy to carry on? from the
Yes,
same
yes, yes, yes,
perspective.
absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you for your contribution.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Beautiful. I've loved it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Tim. I really enjoy what you are doing. And it's like, and you know, one day we're gonna talk maybe one day because one of my big inspirations
Save
is
it,
actually building
reflect.
some games.
No. Be in this
Yes,
moment,
exactly.
and
I'm
we'll
gonna
be in that
focus.
moment at another time,
Okay.
okay? But I would welcome.
Another time, absolutely another time. But yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm gonna reflect on this.
Would you like another 3 minutes to carry on that conversation, or do you want to do it in the round? Because we're all feeding back on the same sheet. I can see everyone's. What do you want? More time? Yeah, more time. Cool. Right, back another 3 minutes. There you go. What's Basketball watch? Welcome back. That looked a busy one. I'm watching the board. There's loads of stuff going in there, so that's beautiful, isn't it? Would anyone like to share? Who put the children's fire on?
Yeah, that was me actually. Yeah, that was. I don't know if anyone's heard of Matt McCartney. He set up a kind of centre down in Embercombe, which channels quite a lot of Indigenous wisdom. But basically, the Children's Fire, from what I gather, is an Indigenous kind of decision-making process where I think the quote is, "No decision that's made shall affect adversely the children 7 generations from now." So it's kind of a decision-making value process that Indigenous tribes people incorporate into their system. And I'm not sure how that necessarily applies in the financial or across all this, but it was just kind of an interesting one that I've heard of.
Lovely. Thanks, Andy. I mean, I can see that Morris has put more time there, but that maybe this is it's the same concept of time, and we having a different Morris one is shaking her head.
I put more time there. It wasn't about more time to chat in the chats, but actually reclaiming, redefining value, reclaiming time. So in the manufacturing process, it ties into, I guess, the shortening of supply chains and automations. Like, how do we reclaim time to do the stuff we love to do? I think that there's a belief or practice or value in that.
What about other connections that people can see with values, beliefs, norms that they've put on there? Does anyone want to draw something out? Does anyone want to highlight something? There's some beautiful ones in there. Don't be shy. We're all friends now.
I'm curious about what remembering our ecological being selves was about.
Who's that in polar bear? Go on, Emma.
That was just a way of trying to shift from the experience of like being responsible in terms of maybe feeling like passionate about your work, feeling like you're progressing something, feeling like that you have that you're, in some way doing a good thing and being responsible, and shifting that to remembering just having a different standpoint, and then how you view as how you view being responsible might shift with the reminding yourself of like the wider context.
Yeah, thank you.
It almost feels like to me that it leans in to the cultural comment about tradition without the unsustainable trappings. Again, it's that bigger awareness than just ourselves. What other connections can folks see?
Because it's interesting that governance has come up, which I class sociocracy as, because it was basically one of the key things that led us to setting up a donut economics action lab workshop, was this idea that governments and politicians aren't really up to the job of solving the meta crisis, I guess. So it's going to be more deliberative democracy and more people solving problems at local levels, but with a global kind of hat on. It is more likely to be of benefit. In sociocracy, I'm kind of aware of, is more of a democratic kind of process that's much less hierarchical and top down.
Go on, Candice.
Right. I think it feeds into also what Andy just touched on now. Like, it really goes back to where we are. The context of where we are will change this conversation. And I guess back to what Emma and Lena were saying earlier, just that reminder is coming from this perspective of the global north when we making these values and beliefs comments. And that really came through when we were talking about manufacturing. And Andy was saying, well, in the UK, if we brought back automation here, that would shorten the supply chain. We could look at seasonality more, because currently in the fashion industry, you're having to order in 6 months in advance, irrespective of what the weather's going to be like further down the line. And so I just wanted to really bring back that how important place is for context in this piece of thinking.
Thank you.
I don't know if this is relevant to this, but I like the Robin Wool Kimmerer quote from Braiding Sweetgrass, which just poses a question: how can we learn to view facts as poems? So like shifting value from just attaining knowledge for the sake of it, and then just attaching like morality or meaning or deeper fulfillments of just being human to the most basic of things.
Emma, that's beautiful. Thank you. So that's one of my favorite books. I featured it in my book subscription, and but that quote had completely escaped me. I quote so much stuff from that, but I've not heard that. How can we view facts as poems? Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. I think there's, for me, we reflecting on what Candice was saying about our global north perspective. I think there's a certain severing of our connections post Enlightenment, and this idea that we can measure and manage and have dominion over everything, that a quote like that just completely dissolves. It's like it's not even an important way of demarcating ourselves or understanding ourselves. Someone talked before about the magic of poetry. I'm a firm believer in that. Any last connections that anyone wants to draw out from this before we take ourselves into the future and imagine those beautiful futures that we want to see coming out of our forks?
What I notice is that in many of the fields, in many of the guardians, I really notice the kind of a future thinking way of dealing with this. and in a very positive way, in a kind of way of as a kind of a idea of stewardship and legacy that we have for the commons and for the future generations. And so it's like that's probably what in each of the fields is like, okay, what we are carry on that is sustainable in the way that we have for the people who are uh, gonna be after us, and for the earth will be after we are gonna end up inside the earth. So who knows? So that's probably what I really notice in the different guardians, I would say.
Stewardship and time and cycles.
Yes, and legacy.
I was going to offer up some more inspiration at this point from the inspiration cards, but I think Emma's done it beautifully. Is there about Robin Wall Kimmerer's quote on facts as poems. So we're going to skip straight into the future, gaily skip into the future together with your fellow Capital Guardians. This is the final breakout session where you're just going to be in there, the two or three of you. So I just wanted to mention that so that we didn't all of a sudden end and you went, oh, I didn't get a chance to say whatever, because it's really weird for me. I can't see and hear all the conversations that you're having, but I can tell from what's emerging that I know that they're profound and fruitful and full of joy and connection. So thank you for that. I've still not worked out the timings on this. It's going to be another 3 and another 3, but we've got that, haven't we? You just ignore whatever pops up. You wait until you come back in a room, and then I just send you back out. And I love that. I love you all for your forbearance and tolerance. Thank you all. Right, let's jump back into our rooms, and this time, so we're going to be so it's reflecting on your fork, all the ones that you've heard from other people. What is your guardian's alternate vision of a more viable and more beautiful future? So we want to see this was the fork in the road. This was the future that wasn't chosen. I want you to bring that future out for us, and I want you to paint a beautiful. I was going to say paint a beautiful picture. Write a beautiful poem. Tell a beautiful poem about that future in 6 minutes. Beautiful poems in 6 minutes. Over to you. Composters. Wow, that's amazing. Hello again, and goodbye again. 3 more minutes. Simon, there's a meeting room without you in it. We're nearly finished, Emma, don't worry. um, I'm really, I think I'm really touched. Um, Jean Petro, I think it was you, has written a poem. Is that your poem?
Yeah, I love haikus. So I try to create something that even if I'm not sure if the middle line is 7 syllables. Yeah, but it kind of should be almost an haiku.
Can you read it for us?
Oh yeah, sure. So on the social capital social capital guardian, I thought about it that a kind of uh, possible future positive one is connected with a kind of chant like this. So circles gather close, voices rise, a common song, roots of hope deepen. And for the roots is like because of course we are porcini, so we are mushroom, so we need like to stay in the ground, but in the same time we deepen inside under the ground, so we create a better network. But yeah, unfortunately, like I wasn't the right poet in my team because Josiane is a much better poem than what I am. She's actually a proper poet. So, but uh, but yeah, I try to do my best with haikus.
It's beautiful, and future iterations of this game, which I've taken a lot from this, but I think trying to channel some of the mysteries in that way would be lovely. I'm going to need to take a deep breath. So, would someone else like to share their vision? I can see there's loads of financial vision appearing there.
Yeah, I guess I'll do mine. I can chime in on some of the ones that I explain better than I can. I think I came up with the idea of money as a mycelial network because it's obviously much as money it gets a bad press. Obviously, it is a way for me to send resources to somewhere else that can then be translated into action somewhere else in the world. So things like climate crisis, it's an easy way for me to actually distribute action to somewhere else in the world without me having to actually physically fly there. So seeing money as a kind of mycelial network, similar to the Wood Wide Web, that distributes nutrients around the system as the system requires it, would seem to be quite a nice kind of metaphor.
Mm. What's it for anyway? Exactly. I love that. I think that's fab. Alice, did you want to carry on while we're on financial?
Yeah, in our brave new financial world, there was something about owners of assets they'd have a much broader sense of what they meant, what they thought of as their fiduciary duty. So if they could see that their asset was damaging the ecology around them or was having a socially negative impact, they'd dig into their pockets to do something about that. Extreme wealth being composted. So if there are folks who've accrued and then there's just a sort of mathematical pattern of more and more and more wealth growing, compounding on top of growth, then those folk would be able to do some sort of potlatch or some sort of process of giving that wealth away in a way that was very creative. And then maybe a final one was we're currently trying to run businesses and enterprises and social enterprises and charities, and we're trying to run everything off this unit, this money that's a bit wonky and being magicked into existence by banks, and the sort of hard currency folk think that gold is the way to go to solve that problem, but then you have to tear up rainforest to get the gold. So could there be a currency, a money that is indexed off something positive, something that we all share with, such as like the health of an ecosystem, if there's some way of measuring that, and then your money supply is indexed off that.
I love it. What about Simon and Olivia? I love your just stewardship. Do you want to speak to that for a minute?
It was kind of how can we make it sound good in a single sentence, but kind of we put temporally reimagining equity, kind of live one is kind of make us think more about time, not just as a current and future, but actually thinking about the wider landscape on that, and very much leaning into kind of more community stuff. So that's bringing in the kind of the collaborative and considered thinking, ultimately bringing joy.
I love that you end on bringing joy, and that seems very similar to where Morris was going with people loving and treasuring what they have to do. What they do. Do you want to just talk to us about that and about the poem that we've missed, apparently?
Well, that's very, very kind of you to say, Charles. I mean, I spoke for most of our time together because I have actually last year written a poem with facts in it. But it's very long. So I will share it in the chat if anybody wants to read it, but I'm not going to read it out loud. But going back to the fork in the road, and we just keep coming back to this point of like linear versus circular, and really at its core is people learning to love and treasure what they have, so they have more time to do more with what they have, was my interpretation of it. Charles, do you want to add anything to that?
Just to say, it was magnificent. It really was. If you want emotional poems to ping heartstrings, Candice had it.
That doesn't surprise me. Are we going to get a polar bear rap? That's the question. So if you can't see the board, it's a self-aware polar bear rap work in progress.
Yes, it is a very much every time we start writing it, the bear keeps going into like the more dark side persona of themselves. So they go into polarized polar bear persona. So it's like the light and the shadow are fighting each other.
It's a
Yeah,
very
I have a
meta
couple
polar
of
bear, isn't it?
lines. Yeah. I mean, I was scribbling some lines, but then every time I was running it through with Emma, I'm just like, oh, we keep getting into like the bad side of the bear. But yeah, I mean, we were just thinking, I am self-aware polar bear. I'm morally good. I'm not from the hood. Polarized, not compromised. I've got 99 problems, and land policies ain't one of them. That's just scribbled stuff I've written. It needs refinement. It is a work in progress. And then I was thinking this could be brought to the kids, could be brought to different audiences. They can have the persona of self-aware polar bear, and it could be used as an improv exercise. That would be something you could throw into your toolkit.
Wow. God, it's been a long time, hasn't it? What a long afternoon. Thank you, everyone. So we've got 8 minutes left. I meant to finish at 1:45. I'm really sorry. We've been here for 3 hours. Thank you for sticking with it. Thank you for sticking with all the tech glitches. I'll send you like a space to feedback because I'd love to hear your feedback. But just to finish, I'd love to hear what's on your heart, what's in your mind after that session, and whoever wants to go is welcome. We'll try and fit all of our reflections in before 5 o'clock. What's on your heart? What's in your mind?
I feel like I need to go on a poetry course.
I'm going to throw in, not that it's a direct comparison to Climate Fresque at all, but in terms of a Fresque being a 3 hour, and that very much feels like a journey where the midpoint is at the bottom of the roller coaster. But actually, I find that Climate Fresque struggles to get back up and lift you out, whereas this felt like we've traversed that far more effectively, given the weight of the exercise.
Thank you, Simon.
Well, I've got I suppose, maybe a curiosity of how differently this would be played out if it wasn't this wonderful group of people. I mean, maybe an equally wonderful group of people, but I think we all sort of really align and have very similar thoughts by the sound of it. So I'm super curious to learn and hear more about how this emerges for you, Tim.
I'm curious to see how it emerges for me as well. You know, I'm, I'm curious to see how it emerges for us all. It's not really mine. Like, I've just taken some other stuff and kind of put it together and then shared it with you guys. And you guys have taken this and done other stuff with it. It's out there. I mean, it's there to play with. So.
I guess it's interesting comparing this to a Donut Economics Action Lab workshop, because I guess that was more focused on kind of local issues that might be easier for people maybe not in this space to kind of associate with, because it's less kind of talking about, I know climate can be a polarizing issue for a lot of people, so even mentioning like the climate and meta crisis can instantly turn a lot of people off, whereas something like the Donut Economics Action Lab workshop is quite good for, I mean, I know it talks about unraveling the donut and all that kind of things, but you could have a version of that, which is basically just by starting with talking to people about their local problems, which to me seems like a universal anchor point for almost everybody. You know, they live, where do you, if you want to talk to people who weren't necessarily academically minded or eco-literate or whatever you want to call it, that might be an easy entry point. I wasn't quite sure how you'd model this to be an easier entry point for those sort of people without other than. So that's my kind of observation.
Thank you.
I find myself again coming to the conclusion that yet again, I still find that art and culture is still required for changing the narrative. And I've come to that conclusion again today.
Yeah.
I mean, are there any other tools in this in kind of space that people are aware of? I mean, I know there's kind of, is it Britain Talks Climate was another, and a carbon literacy training with both other ways to engage with people on kind of climate. So it's interesting, there's quite a lot of things in this space. Maybe there's a few I'm not aware of, but I've also heard of Climate Fresque. But
I design also a bunch of games, Andy, and actually this isn't meant to be a sales pitch. I don't mean to jump on your lovely game here, Tim, but on Friday, myself and Sarah Spencer are launching a game called Unstuck in the Mud, which is less maybe about futures, but really trying to find those root causes and take people through a journey. So I can invite you to that.
I'm happy to. Candy, just send me the link and I'll send it out afterwards.
That would be fantastic. Going back on the reflection on what I have in mind, what I have in my art, after the experience as a social guardian, I would say that on my mind, I really notice it's more like the connection with the other system. Like we were representing different systems, and even if we were playing a little bit, we tried to play like in different ways, like in a kind of a silo, but we noticed that always like the system are touching each other and really influencing each other. So it's like I noticed that how my reflection in the different steps were actually even caused by the reflection of other people. So it's actually really opened up the mind a lot for me. Like, so this exercise was very deep on this. I really love this. It's a proper deep root, I would say. And on the art, especially, and this is like on the art side as a social guardian. I wrote it because it was like quite, but so I have a feeling like very persistent hope, and also really feeling very warm somehow, just as because it's like as we saw, for example, 2 days ago in Spain and Portugal, when when the electricity went down. In the hardest of the time, the people yearn for general connection and not for individualism. So this is like one of my persistent feeling that at least society, even if it's very divided, but can be connected on this. And so in the hardest of the time that probably maybe we're gonna have it in the next few years, there is always like the hope of the community that is really growing strong and deep, like, and really rediscovering the roots of what is really important, and this connection probably, at least from my social guardian side, I would say.
Sounds like it was playing into your strengths, that role. Any thoughts from anyone else before we close?
I just share my gratitude to everyone who's been on the call. It's really good to be reminded of the collective genius that there is out there that we all need to tap into more.
One second. Right. It's about to turn to 5. I'm beyond words. Thank you so much, everybody. I can't tell you. I genuinely can't tell you how much I appreciate it, but I fit in here. So thank you, everyone. And make of this what you will. I will send you a form to let me know a bit more about it, and let's carry on the conversation. It's a tool. You're welcome to use it. I would really welcome that. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Enjoy the weather.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you to all of you. Bye-bye.
Tim, I've just popped in. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
Well done. Thank you. It was lovely.
Oh, that's really kind. Thank you. It was clunky, but I hope it was lovely.
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. I think some of the questions I struggled with, I didn't fully understand the questions. That's maybe just my only feedback on it.
No, I'd love to hear that.
But I'm more than happy to put that in the feedback note. I just stayed on to say I've just quickly popped in the link there if anybody's interested, to let you know before we went.
Oh, there. Right, cool.
And only because it was asked. That was not my plan.
No, it's cool. No, it's fine.
It's
absolutely good. Right. I'm going to have to go and decompress now.
Enjoy. Take care. Thank you again.
Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.